Okay, we are live, and I am with Thecia Ellis, who is a wife, a mother, a grandmother, and she's embarked on her homesteading journey a little later in life. And she lives in northeastern Oklahoma. She's raising chickens, ducks, Idaho pasture pigs, and a few other things that we'll get to talk about. She's got a couple of YouTube channels, a podcast, and a whole lot of ambition. And is somebody who's been pretty publicly outspoken about some of her relationship challenges. And we will get to all of that later on. But first thing I wanted to ask you, Thecia, is the first time that I'd met you was back in October. And I met you at the SelfReliance Festival. And at that time, you had your YouTube channel was Ellis Family Farms, and you've since changed it. What was there a particular reason you decided to change it? Or I really do like your logo. It's pretty cool. It's super cute. So what was the impetus for you deciding to change?
Years ago, when I started the YouTube channel for Ellis Family Farms, my husband was keeping bees. I had a granddaughter. I still have a granddaughter that we're raising, and she's 16 now, but she was like 10 and cute. And I thought, okay, this is a good time to start a YouTube channel. And we have a vineyard, and of course, I've got all the animals and stuff. And I thought, okay, Tom and I are Ellis's, and we've got several aspects to a farm. So I had expected us to be Ellis Family Farms and being able to show the farm life of it. My husband has trouble with depression and stuff, and so it basically has turned into just me. And I decided to rebrand and make it Grandma's Homestead. And we still got the vineyard, we still got all the animals and everything. But essentially, if something's going wrong or something's not getting done, it's my fault.
Yeah. So you're the one who's shouldering the most of the responsibility around there as far as from the homestead.
Yeah. Tom has a day job, so I'm home by myself, and I get to play on the farm all day.
Yeah. Very cool. What are some of the things that you're working on your homestead currently?
Oh, I'm still trying to figure out how to garden. I'm the worst gardener ever, but I do have some laying hens. I did get some of those breast chickens. Remember how they were talking about them recently? Mm-hmm. I do have 10 breast chickens. I ordered them last July, and they didn't come until, I think they came in November when they finally arrived. So they're still young, and it looks like I've got 4 roosters and 4 females. So I'm going to have to do some culling on that too. But I've got the layers, I've got the breasts, I've got some Pekin ducks, and every summer I usually do a few of the broad-breasted broad-breasted turkeys. They don't have to be bronze, they can be the white. Because I developed some food allergies and I can't eat red meat anymore, so I raise my own poultry. And this year, because I wanted to have some closed systems, hence the breasts. I also have some heritage turkeys. They're black slate, and I've got one little blue slate hen. And I'm experimenting with them in case I need to have a closed system on my farm for that. And I've got the 3 Idaho pasture pigs. I'm not having a lot of luck with the breeding of them, though. I bought the breeding trio a year ago, and as they were piglets and just as cute as they can be. But my boar died in the heat of the summer, despite my best efforts. So I got a new boar, and there's something wrong with him. I'm going to have to call a vet, I think. And I don't want to call a vet, but it's like he's not even a year old, and he's got like severe arthritis. It looks like he can't hardly move around at all. So right. Apparently he can't do his job either because he hurts too bad.
Right.
So I'm not having any piglets either.
You had an allergy to red meat. I've actually never even heard of that. What happens, from an allergic standpoint with you?
Well, I developed severe eczema in my face, and my whole body swelled up, and it was a cumulative thing because I didn't know I was allergic to all that stuff. I was just kind of functioning, get through life, and my eyes would be swollen shut. My skin was all itchy and red and swollen, but yeah, I think the doctors haven't told me this, but it sounds like an alpha gal thing. It was probably from a tick bite. And so the top four things that is beef, wheat, pork, and dairy. And I miss my pork. I love my barbecue pork.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Ken Berry says that you can get over alpha gal, and I'm kind of hoping to be able to get over it. I do push it, but yeah, if I eat wheat, I break out. And but yeah, if you had seen a picture of me whenever I was sick, it's like, whoo, you don't even look like you. I was miserable, itched madly. Looks like you got some people showing up on the thing too. That's cool. Yeah, it could be a Lyme issue. I Years ago in 2008, my joints got sick, and they told me that I tested low positive for 3 different types of Lyme disease, and but he told me I have some sort of autoimmune, but he just doesn't know what it is. So we're just kind of moving with that, and my joints don't hurt like they did, but now it just went onto the skin. I think some of it had to do with some nerves, having I was going through a lot of things at the time, like with when getting custody of Kinsey and a few other things. Oh, and moving my parents that had dementia from southern Oklahoma to Florida. So I was trying to get that down. So there was a lot going on. It looks like you're back.
Yeah, I had some technical difficulties there. I don't exactly know what happened there, but I guess I was able to troubleshoot it well enough to come back.
Yeah.
So yeah. Hey, so your talk at SelfReliance, you talked a lot about, some of your relationships that you've had, and, kind of expressed that to some pretty decent detail. Can you express or just kind of take us through some of the issues that you've had as it relates to some of your relationships? And, are there any things that maybe might be a lesson for some people who might be going through something, similar to that?
Well, okay, let me preface this like I did when we were at the SelfReliance Festival. I really do like men. It just doesn't, I don't, it's going to sound like I really hate them, but I don't. My first marriage, we married pretty soon after getting out of high school, and he joined the military. And I think by the time he joined the military and he left about 10 days after we had gotten married. And by the time we got to live together again, I had a 5-week-old baby, and we moved to Alaska. So I moved to Alaska with a brand new baby, and a man who had gone through something through basics in AIT, and it turned into a very contentious, violent marriage. And I was stuck in Alaska, not being able to do anything about it. So I waited till, and then when we got transferred to Texas, the violence continued. So I waited until he got stationed in Korea, and then I divorced him while he was in Korea. And at that time, I met my second husband, and was crazy about the man, just crazy about him. But we moved to California, or Southern California. I didn't know it, but I was highly allergic to smog, and there was a lot of smog in Southern California, and I got sick. And apparently when I'm sick, I'm not much fun to be around, and he left me for another woman. So I ended up, by then I had 2 boys, and moved back in 94, I moved back from California back to Oklahoma, and with my 2 boys, became a meter reader. Loved that job, loved walking, loved getting in the yard with most of the dogs, and dealing with that. And then I met a man at a meter reader also, and we hooked up, and then he got into drugs and drinking and stuff, and so I ended up he got to where he was trying to beat me up and stuff too, so I kicked him out. And a few months later, I saw him at a party. I said, "Hey, I got some of your stuff, why don't you come and get it?" And I've moved on, get some of your stuff. Well, he took it wrong, and I ended up having to fight for my life for about an hour and a half while he raped and sodomized and beat me. And so I had to go to court for all that. And that was very stressful. It was like in a 2-week period. I was working a corporate job. I lost my job. at the corporate thing. Almost lost my life, lost both my boys. My oldest son kind of flipped out, moved out of the house. And my youngest son had seen part of the attack, and they were going to make him show up to court to testify. He was only 8 years old. And I was not going to have my 8-year-old son testify in court on his own mother's rape case. So I had to send him to live with his father for a while until the rape case, until it had gone to court and stuff. And what was crazy about that whole thing too is, and you go through the court and you try to be good about it. Because of his next boyfriend, it could not be considered rape. So it was called sexual assault. So he got 3 years for sexual assault. He got 2 years for assault with intent to kill. And they counted time served. And essentially, he was out of prison and standing in my neighbor's yard 9 months after the initial attack. And so I went on the news and said, this is who this guy is, and this is what's happening. And the judicial system didn't do me any good. I was scared to death. And at that time, I was working in a restaurant, and I will never forget this. I ran into one of those firemen here just a few months ago, too. And that was in 1998 is when that actually happened. And so one of the ladies I go to the gym with, I found out her husband was one of the firemen. So the day after I had gone on the news, I was working in a Golden Corral. I was assistant manager for Golden Corral. Next thing I know, I'm surrounded by a bunch of policemen and firemen. And they said, we need to talk to you. And I went, okay, what's going on? And they took me aside. They said, we saw you on the news. We've got your back. And I thought, oh my gosh, that is so cool. And so even after all these years, I had talked to one of the firemen. He goes, yeah, I remember you, and it was good to have that somebody finally on my side, because it was kind of an interesting situation. The man who tried to kill me was actually very good looking, very charismatic. And so a lot of my friends told me I got what I deserved. So he knocked me around a little bit. I got what I deserved, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, so that was really hard on me psychologically. But I got over that. And then I met the man I'm married to now. And I plan on staying married to him. When we first started dating, he taught me how to relax, because I was working like 80 and 90 hours a week trying to put food on the table and do stuff. And he took me fishing and camping, and he had a lake lot. And so that was really cool. But then after we got married, he got sick and struggling with pretty severe depression. And we lost the lake lot. We lost the boats. We lost the laundromat that he owned, and almost lost everything. So we were going backward so much, and then just on the verge of losing even that I had to step up. And I'm from a generation where we're told that the men take care of the family. And so I had always wanted to have a man in my life that could take care of the family. And even the Bible tells you that the man is the head of the household and stuff. And I have to admit, I got some anger issues with that one. It's like, well, okay, they're supposed to be the head of the household. How come they're not doing it? But so all these years, I was kind of hoping that these men would step up, and I wanted to be their partner. I wanted to be side by side with them, take on the world and all that other stuff. And it just didn't happen. So I've come to the conclusion here in the last few years that it's up to me. I've got to get it done. And if you want to come along with me, that's fine. But until then, I'm going to do it. And this is what I do. And that's actually why I started my YouTube channel in the first place. I needed to see progress. We were down to living in a camper with no running water. Now, we had running water in the barn that we had built, but basically I lived for 7.5 years in a camper with no running water in it. And then when we got custody of my granddaughter, we had to figure out something. And so we ended up buying, and this is an interesting one too. We bought an old trailer house, a 1998 trailer house for $2,500. And I'm trying to learn how to remodel it now, but we actually live in it too. So it's good. I'm getting there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's, I appreciate you, sharing that, because I think a lot of people, don't tell you the stuff that is the stuff they don't really want you to hear. That's not stuff that's like people want to just come out and tell you about. But I think that there's a lot of value in that, because there's a lot of people that are in relationships, I believe, that for whatever reason, they're looking or hoping that the other person is going to meet them in the middle. And, you know, at some point it's like, you got to come to that realization that it's just not going to be. And I guess, you know, like, what was the trigger for you to realize, you know, that you just got to move on? I think that's the message, because some people aren't meant to be with one another. That's why people get together and then they get apart, right? So
Yeah.
what's that trigger? What was that trigger mechanism in any of those relationships? Or was there something that maybe you can look back on now and say, I should have recognized this earlier?
I don't know, because I try to analyze that a lot, because you know, as you know, I tease. I always tell people that I'm married for life 3 times, you know, and so,
Yeah.
but my first marriage our marriage was nothing like what it was like when we were dating. So it was kind of a shock, and you know, we were married for 5 years, and he was one of those too. So I told him, look, I'm gonna leave you, and he said, well, if you do, I'll kill you, and then I'll kill myself. So that's the reason I had to wait for him to go to Korea before I could get a divorce, because that's about the only safe way I could do it. And then, like I said, my second husband, he just left me for another woman, so there was not much I can do about that. And Tom and I are still together. I think he has like a bipolar type depression. He can go for weeks without even speaking to me, and then all of a sudden he wants to talk to me again. And actually, I'm learning how to deal with that too. If you get into a situation, it's like he's not going to talk to you, just get on with your life and get on. And then all of a sudden he feels better and he wants to talk to you, and you go, what? I'm busy. I can't talk. You know? So I'm still learning, and I'm still, and I'm also discovered it's almost like a grieving process. When he stays into a real deep depression for a very long time, it's almost like a death. And so I had went through 2 or 3 years of being angry and upset and stuff. And then about the time I come to terms with it, that's just the way it is. Then he starts coming back. It's like, wait a minute, dude, you're feeling better and you're going to talk to me for a while. And I know you're going to go away, and I'm going to have to go through this grieving process again. So yeah, I'm sure everybody has to learn how to tiptoe in the relationships and stuff, but
Yeah.
All the dances are different.
Yeah, no, that's really important. And I appreciate you sharing that, because like I say, I think a lot of people, you know, can benefit from hearing at least your story. And I think what's inspiring from your story is you're not somebody that's like sitting around waiting for something to happen. You're not sitting around for, you know, like, oh, poor me. You're actually just taking the bull by the horns and you're running with it. You're now grandma's homestead. You're gonna drive the car. And I think that that's a really commendable thing. And you know, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you, because I'm inspired by that, because so many people make excuses in life for the things that they don't have, instead of just realizing, you know, I just need to suck it up and go make things happen and quit my bitching, you know. And that's, like I said, I'm seeing all the things that you're got your hands in. You've got all kinds of things that you're working on, and that to me is inspiring. That shows that you know, you're a person who's not sitting around waiting for somebody to give you something. You're actually going out and you're taking initiative to make that difference in your own life. So that's super cool.
Well, I won't lie, I did do that for a while, you know, because I now have a wonderful church that I go to and stuff, but they teach you, you know, the man is the head of the family. I keep going, guys, I want my husband to be the head of the family, but he can't do it. So I kept waiting for him to be the head of the family, and it went on for a few years before I finally said, and even that is a psychological shift. You don't want to be disrespectful and say, all right, I'm the boss now. You know, you have to weigh it out and say, look, I'm not trying to emasculate you. I'm not trying to do anything terrible here, but I can't let us go any further backward. We've got to go in the right direction. So there is, you know, like, you try to be fair, but at the same, you know, I'm not jumping up saying, here I am, oh, I'm taking over. You know,
Right.
I can't do that.
No, yeah, I understand. Yeah, it's definitely, like I said, very commendable on your part in far as sticking in there as long as you did in a lot of those instances. And then, at some point you got to just move on. So I think that that's the lesson and take away from that. But the acreage that you sit on, how many acres are you on your homestead?
We're on a 40-acre plot. It was Tom and his two sisters inherited him from their father when he passed. So we inherited the middle 13 and a third acres. He's got a sister that lives a few miles away that owns the north end, and then a sister that lives in Wisconsin that owned the south end. Well, we ended up getting her end. So we're on 26 and two-thirds acres
Mm-hmm.
that we actually own right now. And it's reclaimed coal pits. It used to be beautiful trees and stuff, but I think that's back in the 80s. And this was before I met Tom. They came through and did strip mining for coal. And when they reclaim it, basically they just take a bulldozer and bulldoze it down. So I love my sunsets. If you ever watch any of my videos, I get the most beautiful sunsets, but if you look, I don't have a whole lot of trees and stuff. We got some scrub trees that are coming up, and we've tried to plant some, but it's just very little topsoil and shale underneath it and stuff. And it's kind of funny, when we planted our vineyard a few years ago, we had the auger and we was going down, and it was coming up with grease rags wrapped around the auger. And I found out just a few years ago that where we have the vineyard now, that used to be the motor pool for where they were doing the strip mining. And so, yeah, and I found a solenoid to a vehicle one time. There's another section of our property. There's some pipes that are heaving up out of the ground. And so, yeah, it's oh, and there's other part that I had to be careful about bush hogging, because it's a whole pile of barbed wire that I got too close to one time, and I got some wrapped around an axle.
Right, right. So that makes it difficult to grow there. You just don't have any topsoil. What did they do? They just kind of smooth things out or whatever, and it's just like whatever's left from they extracted the coal, but there's probably some, like you said, shale and rock and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, yeah, and we got some cool rocks. If some of the rocks I pulled up are just full of fossils, so
Huh.
I keep them and look at them occasionally because they're neat.
Yeah, interesting. Very interesting. Um, what are you doing with the livestock that you have currently? I mean, you've got quite a bit of stuff. Are you using that mostly for your own personal consumption, or are you guys selling anything, or what's your plan with that?
Most of it is for my own consumption. I would like to be able to sell it to some people. There's some laws that I got to learn to work around. I'm 60 years old. And so raising Cornish cross and then processing on myself is a kind of a little out of my league. So I've got a wonderful Amish family in Kansas that I just haul them up to her whenever, and she and her whole family, they knock them out, and they're cleaner than anybody that's FDA at all, or USDA, excuse me. And but that doesn't, because it's not USDA and it's across state lines, is not legal for me to sell them. So I haven't figured out how to work around that yet, And but yeah, I would love to. And plus, we're pretty rural here, so I think I had some extra broad-breasted turkeys this last fall, and I was going to sell them, and I was only going to do $5 a pound, and you've seen a lot of places like $11 a pound and stuff for pasture-raised birds, and I couldn't sell even one. So I don't know. And I was going to do duck eggs. I was going to become the duck farmer, and nobody. I think I found all summer. I found one customer who wants duck eggs.
Yeah,
So
I think it's kind of difficult, as far as from the local perspective, because a lot of people that you live around living in a rural area, they have an abundance of that stuff too. So you have to try to find people who are a little closer into the city or whatever. But yeah, that's kind of the situation that like most of us are in that live in rural areas. All your neighbors have an abundance of eggs and all that stuff too, for the most part.
yeah. Yeah, and we're about 40 miles from Tulsa. And when Tom was a beekeeper, we did sell honey at
Mhm.
the farmers market in Tulsa, and that was really cool. That was a good farmers market, and I could sell my eggs and stuff there at the same time too. So that was really nice. But we haven't been there in a few years.
Mhm. Yeah, I saw some of your your videos where you were doing some of the work on your motor or your mobile home. And is that just like, is that all new to you? I mean,
Oh,
that's,
brand new. I don't have a clue what I'm doing.
so are you just like YouTube University?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and in fact, we're having to replace. We had to replace the flange in the toilet that I pulled because I looked at the wrong video and I was using a sawzall to cut it off and I messed it up. So I'm going to have to. We had to start all over with that part of it too. Yeah, and it
Yeah.
was funny
Yeah.
because I went to Nicole Sauce's um, workshop in the spring and her LFTN workshop, and I
Yeah.
would just pulled up, and I was going up the driveway, and all of a sudden, a man turned around and he looked at me, he goes, "Hey, how's your skirting doing on your house?" And I just laughed because they know I put my skirting up 5 or 6 times trying to get the wind from blowing it in. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably a big challenge out there. If you get a lot of winds, just trying to keep stuff attached to your, that wind skirting is probably pretty important on a a structure like that. So
yeah, well, and the north end of it, I think, because we're on a hill and stuff, the north end, I think the the gap is like 44 inches. So I had to put some frames behind the skirting just to keep it from blowing in all the time.
yeah, yeah. Laura here says that some neighbors also expect you to give them eggs and would rather pay at the store. Um, yeah, I guess that is kind of an interesting an interesting mindset. I don't know. I haven't really had to deal with that, but yeah, super interesting. I think most people would rather get it from their neighbor than go to the store, but yeah, crazy.
Well, before the price of eggs went up and stuff too, I was trying to sell my eggs for $5 a dozen, and somebody goes, $5? I can get them for $1.25 at the store. And I'm
Right.
thinking, well, yeah, no, but my eggs are better.
Yeah. One thing that I think people fail to recognize is just the nutritional density of food that's been properly fed and raised in an environment that isn't in one that's in a CAFO, you
Yeah.
know? Um, I mean, yeah, those eggs are, they're just churning them out, but what they're feeding them is, it is what it is. And, I prefer eating food that's been raised where where it came from and all of those sort of things. And I think that there's a lot of people who also appreciate that. So I think it's just one of those things that from the standpoint of, us being people who can produce that is just finding a way to market that to people so that they
Yep.
know that it's available to them. I know that there's a ton of people out there that would love to buy eggs from me. It's just, where do you find them, right? It's just you have to put the effort out to establish those relationships. But if you can establish a handful of them, then you've got an income stream for those eggs and happy customers, I guess.
Well, and I think a lot of people don't understand that the food they buy in the store, where it comes from and stuff too. It's kind of funny whenever I first started trying to research food and see what was going on. My poor husband, he would come home from work and I had just read an article and I'd jump up and say, "Did you see this? This is what they're doing to our food." And he's going, "What? I just got home from work," But
Yeah.
yeah, people have no idea the food that they get in the stores, what it's been through and how poor it is. So, and how much better homegrown and,
Oh,
pasture raised and all that other stuff is.
oh, the flavors it's incredibly, it's just way better, Um, some things you can't really tell the difference, but with respect to like quality raised meat, there's like really no comparison. If you've had good chicken, I'm not a real big chicken fan to begin with. I mean, I think it's one of my least favorite meats, quite honestly. It's almost, to me, it's like tofu. You have to like cook it with something to like make it taste good, at least in my opinion. It's kind of not that flavorful, but if you get like some Freedom Rangers or something like that, that's some good chicken, as opposed to what you're going to get from Foster Farms or Tyson. You know, it's just, and even even the Cornish cross that you raise, that's what they're raising in these hatcheries is Cornish cross. Even the stuff you raise on your own farm is going to taste a lot better. It makes a difference. So, yeah.
Well, and then if you try to sell chickens, they want to part it out or the breast cut out of them and stuff too. And then you go, well, what do you want to do with the rest of it? A lot of people don't even know what to do with the whole bird. It's kind of an interesting conundrum,
Yeah. No doubt about it. So, what's your biggest challenge you've got right now on your homestead, Thecia? I know you're probably working on a lot of different things, and what would you say is something you're working on, or it's providing you the biggest challenge at this point?
Well, I think right now my bathroom remodel, this house, like I said, we paid $2,500 for it, so it had a lot of water damage, a lot of rodent damage. We've had to replace a lot of the plumbing and stuff, and the floor in the master bathroom was literally rotting out from underneath us. And in fact, my husband almost fell through it one day. So I thought, okay. And it was a little bit, I think the shower in was only like 31 inches wide. I thought, oh, no problem. I'll just move this one wall over and we'll get a 48-inch shower. It'll be nice and it'll be good. And I didn't take into account, well, I opened up one wall and that's the vent that goes all the way from the floor through the ceiling.
Yeah.
Can't move that wall unless I want to make another hole in the roof. So I worked around that, but then I get to the other side and I got to figure out how to move electricity for the wiring and stuff. And at first I'm going, oh no, what have I done? I told my husband, I said, I was just trying to help. I didn't know. But once when we bought it, the toilet was sitting on some plywood, so we knew that there was some rot underneath it. Well, when we took the plywood off, it was literally a huge hole, like 2 foot across underneath there. So we were going to have to replace everything anyway. So I wasn't smart enough to know that it's not good to try to move walls. So and I was hoping to have it done quickly. I started it last fall, maybe even late summer, and right now I've got the subflooring kind of in. It needs to be trimmed some more where it actually lays flat. So when the wind blows, there's a breeze that comes through. Oh no. And then before I got that, we just had patches of plywood thrown down over the big hole. So now we're talking about, I think it's 8 foot by 8 foot hole that's in the bathroom now on the north end of the house. And we just had some patchwork lumber was thrown down, and a stray cat kept coming into the house through the holes in the floor. And I would throw him out and he'd come back in, and apparently now I have an indoor cat. So yeah. I don't know, it's taking a lot longer than I thought it would, and I really lamented I really thought, oh, I just move a wall and I'll just put these implements in and it'll be easy. And I don't know what. I'll get there, as you can well imagine, I would say that, but yeah, I'll get there. It's just, I didn't realize it was going to be so much.
Yeah. I think, every time you open up, do something with regard to construction, and let's say you open up a wall, you're going to be opening up your pocketbook for more than you realize that you were going to do. Cause you're going to find, especially if it's like an older construction where other people have done stuff on that particular structure, you're going to find all kinds of wackiness. And you're going to have to like unravel what they did, and, oh, what's this wiring, and whatever. But it's one of those things that, like, sometimes people will say, oh, well, we'll just move, just move this and we'll just knock this wall out. Right. And that's a person that says that doesn't understand what needs to happen. Because it's not like you just like knock a wall out. Some of that stuff's load bearing, some of that stuff. It's a bigger project than people like, oh, we'll just knock this wall out and it'll be, it'll be amazing. And it's like, well, who's doing that work? And so I'm sure that's something that you're kind of like figuring out now that you're really knee deep into your construction project, huh?
Yeah, and putting it back together is going to be kind of fun too, because the ceiling is not a flat ceiling; it's peaked in the middle, So it's it's going to be fun trying to figure. I don't know. I'm learning a lot. Honestly, that this sounds to me, it sounds egotistical. This place is falling apart faster than I can put it back together. Like when the wind
Mm,
blows, I can hear parts ripping off of it. Like a couple weeks ago, the outer layer of the back door was ripping off, and I thought, man, I can't keep up with this. I do want to get a wood stove in. Nobody wants to wants
mm,
to help put a wood stove in because it is in a trailer house, and so I'm going to get the bathroom done. I'm going to get a wood stove in because we're on electricity here. I've got a propane tank, but the only thing it was for my oven.
mhm.
So I want a wood stove so if we run out of electricity, I can still stay warm. I've got to do some more work to Kenzie's bathroom because the vanity's falling apart in there. After that, I quit. I'm going to figure out how I'm going to build a house. I'm going to build what I want,
Mm.
and I'm hoping that I will have learned enough by then to at least fake my way through it too.
Yeah. Well, that's again, that's super inspiring to, just take that initiative and decide you're going to jump in and learn, because that's how you learn, is through failure. You have to like fall down in order to succeed. That's just the way that it goes. Nobody just like, oh, I'm just going to pick up a hammer and like build myself a house. You got to like learn somehow. And unless you're, start as a framer and go through the whole construction thing, we're all just kind of making our way through this thing. And it is pretty helpful to have like a resource like YouTube, because there's so many things that, I have no idea like how to deal with or whatever. And, the answers are generally there where you can kind of navigate. And so it's pretty useful tool to have.
Yeah, and at the same time, I have to remember how old I am. I mean, I don't feel old. I really don't. I mean, 60 is not young.
Mm-hmm.
And so, how long is it? As long as it's taking me to remodel this bathroom, am I going to live long enough to even build a house? But
Yeah.
I've decided, you know what? I'm just I'm gonna keep on keeping on. And if I die building while I'm building the house, I've only got today anyway. I don't know how much time I've got,
Right.
and I'm hoping that whatever I do, I can keep on. I go to the gym. I really enjoy the classes I do at the gym, and I try to eat healthy. Honestly, with my diet, it's hard to do that. I eat way too many carbs, you know, because I can't eat most of the meat except chicken.
Mm-hmm.
so so I do eat too many carbs and stuff, and I'd like to be able to work around that. But
Right.
other than that, I feel pretty decent, and I want to keep on working. I've decided to work toward what I want, not work on making making it better. What good enough? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't want to live in this trailer house anymore. I want to work toward a real house.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. You mentioned the gym. What are you doing at the gym? Are you going in there and what are you working on?
There's the gym I go to, they have classes. So like on Monday, like today we did Zumba, which is so fun. The instructor, she's so fun, and basically you're just dancing. It's like dance aerobics or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I don't go Tuesday, they have several classes, but I don't go Tuesday and Thursday because I got to stay home and do some work. But Wednesday we got a new teacher. She does toning cardio. She kicks your butt. One time she jumped up from one of her exercises and she goes, Semper Fi. And I said, wait a minute, were you Marine? She goes, no, but my brother was. I'm thinking, no wonder she's kicking my butt. And then on Friday, I do what they call a piloxing class. It's like it's stand up Pilates and you're boxing at the same time stuff. So I'm surrounded by really sweet ladies that we have a lot of fun. We laugh and work hard.
Yeah.
We come out of there sweating. So I love it.
Yeah. That's super awesome. I really think that, we're in this genre or mindset of preparedness. Homesteaders typically are thinking about preparedness, but a big part of that preparedness is just your physical ability, and people, again, tend to make excuses as to why they can't do something or whatever, but there's always something that you can do to improve yourself physically. mobility is a big thing, stretching and just getting out and walking, and find something that you do enjoy, whether that
Yeah.
be taking a class or just getting out and walking the dog. But that's like, it's a part of preparedness. So, it's good on you for getting out there and making the effort, because so many people don't.
Well, part of the reason I did it is when we got custody of Kinsey, she was 11. She was coming out of a really bad situation, and she needed somebody in her life who was going to say, I got your back. I will take care of you. Don't worry about it. And so I had to, and I always have enjoyed fitness and stuff, but I think she was kind of a catalyst for stuff too. I needed to be that strong pillar that she could cling to if she needed to.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted her to know that I was going to be healthy for her. I was going to do my very best to take care of her. And then, like, even during the last couple of years when there's been some food shortages and stuff, I told her repeatedly, I got your back. Do you see all this stuff growing? You see this freezer? It's full of food. We will not go hungry. And so I think having Kinsey in my life has made a difference too. I wanted her to know that I will take care of us.
Yeah, isn't it weird, or not weird, but just how great it is, really, that kids have that effect on you.
Yeah.
They force you to do things that maybe, you wouldn't have done otherwise. And, maybe an example that I can give is just back when, computers were first coming out and the internet and all this. I mean, this is like dial up and MS-DOS, Windows wasn't even a thing at the time. It was MS-DOS, right? And I know there's people that probably listen to this that don't know what MS-DOS is, but that's how long ago it was. You're doing the C:\/ prompt this or whatever, and I was like, man, this is bogus. But I started realizing, I said, you know what? I've got young kids. They're going to need to know how to do this stuff. I should probably learn how to do this stuff. So that was like what forced me to say, I'm not going to shy away from saying, oh, I'm not going to do this computer stuff, and there's of course no getting around it now. Even people that are like my parents are like sitting there on their phones going like this,
Yeah.
Everybody's sucked into the technology age. But yeah, it's just weird how kids can kind of do that to you, force you to do things that maybe you wouldn't. And that's, I think, what keeps you young, keeps your mind, working toward those things. So let me ask you on your pigs. I know you had these pigs that you named Oscar Mayer, right?
Yeah.
What was the other one?
My firstborn was named Jimmy Dean. Loved Jimmy Dean. It was named my firstborn. And then my two females, they're named Waddles, and because she's got Waddles, and the other one is just Daisy. But yeah, I like the boars' names. I thought they were pretty cool.
Yeah. Pigs are super good, man. I like them. My son started raising pigs in 4-H and stuff years ago. And then we wound up, since we had the infrastructure here, we would raise one to butcher and stuff. But they they are very, very personable, and just, yeah, I love having them around. Those are great names. I have to agree. Pretty awesome.
Have you that? I can't remember the guy's name. He does the Pastured Pig podcast, and he's got one of his pigs is called Squealy Dan. He's got a couple other really cute names too, but I can't remember what they are right offhand.
Yeah, that's pretty clever. You'd mentioned that you'd lived in a number of different places. What would you say is your favorite place? I mean, you started out in Oklahoma and you're there now in Oklahoma again, but you've since lived in some other places. What would you say was your favorite place to live of all those?
I think here in Northeast Oklahoma is probably my favorite place. I lived in Southwest Oklahoma during my teenage years. There's a lot of red dirt that blew. That was interesting small town mentality there at the time. And if you weren't kin to somebody or that had lived there all their life, or you didn't live there all your life, you didn't fit in. And that was me. I didn't fit in. I liked Texas. The people in Texas were really nice. It was always nice when a man held the door open for you. I always made sure that I'd say thank you very much, appreciate it. California, Southern California was kind of cool in some ways. There's a lot of really cool things to see in California.
Mm-hmm.
I did not like living there. I did not like in Southern California um, that way of life at all. I was not meant to be in any. I lived just even in El Cajon, which is considered small for there.
Mm-hmm.
It was just too much smog and too much noise. I couldn't get away from the sound and the lights and people. And so I love my place on the hill out here. I've got a few neighbors, you know, the ones behind me are actually closer, but generally I love it out here. In fact, when we got rid of the laundromat and we started moving out here, I actually kind of did kind of a 2-year hiatus where I didn't even go anyplace if I didn't have to, because I was out here just learning the land and learning how to heal from a whole lot of situations. And I love my place here. I won't lie, even when it gets down to 6 degrees.
Yeah. Alaska, you lived there, right?
That was pretty cool. We were in the Fairbanks area. We were about 200 miles south of the Arctic Circle. Like it wasn't 24 hours of daylight, but like during the summertime, you would get about 22 hours of daylight, and the sun would just barely go below the surface, you know, down behind the horizon, and then a couple hours later it's coming back up. So we could it was not 24 hours, but it was 22 hours. And then you lost 2 to 7 minutes a day until Christmas time. And it was dark 22 hours and 50 and 60 below. And the sun would come up above the horizon just barely and come across and go back down again. I was young. I was only 19 when I first moved up there. I couldn't do winters up there now at all, but it was an adventure. It was cool. You know, of course you're all military brats. And so, when you're in military housing, you got all your neighbors and you hang out and play cards and it was an adventure that I'm glad I did, but I'm really glad that I don't think Alaska's beautiful up there, but I couldn't live there.
Yeah, that's someplace I've always kind of, you know, wanted to see. And, you know, some of the things you mentioned regarding the daylight hours and, you know, I mean, obviously there's the inverse to that where it's going to be light all the time or it's dark all the time. And that I don't think is something I could deal with. And I couldn't deal with necessarily the cold like they get up there. But, you know, just the vastness of that terrain and just how big and expansive it is and wild. I think that's what really kind of intrigues me about Alaska. And I would like to see that someday. Yeah, you had mentioned, you know, California, and I'm a native Californian, and I'm not here to like sing the virtues of this state for a lot of reasons, because, you know, politically it doesn't align with, I would say that as far as the leadership and all of that, politically, it doesn't align with my values as much as it probably doesn't with a lot of people's values. But I don't know if there's a better state, quite honestly, geographically. And I mean, it has like everything you could possibly want. It has the desert, it has the forests, it has the, you know, the ocean, it has the mountains. It's got, you know, everything you could possibly want geographically. And then as far as the climate, it's very temperate. You know, we get pretty mild, you know, I mean, that's why we have a growing season like it is. The downside has been lately is the droughts that we wind up getting. You know, it kind of sucks, man. It would be nice to have a little bit more rain. You know, I wish I had some of that summer rain like you guys have out there, you know, but yeah, California's it's a great place as far as that's concerned, but, you know, for a lot of reasons, it's not super great, you know, cost of living and all the political aspects of things. But yeah, didn't you live in Venezuela too? I heard like you'd mentioned.
Yeah, well, when I was a baby, mom and dad moved to Venezuela. My dad worked for an oil company at the time, and they sent him to Venezuela to do a job that was supposed to take 6 months. And mom's going, well, you're not going without me, because I'm the oldest. They'd only been married a few months, you know, and so, or a year or so, I guess. And so we, the three of us, moved to Venezuela, and dad got the job done in 6 weeks. And we came back home instead of 6 months. So I don't remember that too much. Dad has some pretty interesting stories about army ants and stuff like that. And
Right.
so they had some stories from it. So yeah, did that. Now, what part of California are you in? You say Northern California?
Yeah, no, I'm in the northern Sacramento Valley. So,
Okay. When
um,
they do the weather, when I lived in San Diego area, they had when they did the weather, they did for coastline, inland, mountain, and desert. So they had 4 different weather predictions that they would do for us. Because you're right, there was a lot of really cool. I loved the things to see up there. Like when I remember when I was a kid, we traveled through there, and I was looking. We went to Hearst Castle, and I was looking for a place to hide and stay.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it really does have, a lot of beauty and stuff like that. And just the climate's super good, but, for a lot of other reasons, it's not so great. But yeah, yeah. I was looking at here. This person says is a U.S. Army vet stationed in Anchorage, Alaska. Yeah. What's up? Very cool. Hey, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you this, I suppose, at least for my own personal edification. But tornadoes, man, like what's going on with that? You got tornadoes out there. Have you ever seen one?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't in several years. I think Jack Spirko's kind of right that the dry line, everything is changing. But when I lived in Southwest Oklahoma, and I have to admit, I still want to be a storm chaser. But the day that I had learned that I wanted to be a storm chaser, I think I was 10 or 11. I was on part of a boys baseball team. And at that time, I think I was playing right field, and it was one of those hot, muggy, terrible days. And I'm looking up, and there's 5 tornadoes in a row that were spinning up, and then they would dissipate, and they would spin up and dissipate. And then one of them turned into a real tornado, and it started hailing huge rocks. So we were hurrying up and gathering up our gear. The teams were running, and that tornado chased us 7 miles all the way back home. And when you lived in now, see, we're talking about the 70s and stuff too. So meteorology was not has it's come a long way. So if a whole county, if there was a tornado in one part of the county, the whole county was in a tornado warning and stuff. And we lived across the street from the school, and they had one on each side of the school, 2 long cellars that we just ran across the street and would get down into the cellar. And those were neat too, because they were communities. So the tornado chased us all the way home, and it was kind of cool because Mom was always, every time we turned around, how you go around a field and stuff, she'd go, "Where's it to us now?" We'd go, "It's over there, Mom, it's over there," and it chased us all the way home. We ran across the road, went up to the school, and got down into the cellar, and it literally went over the top of us. And I thought that was the most exciting thing ever. And I was kind of bummed though, because on each side of this cellar were the chairs, and that's where the moms always sat. And then the kids, they would either sit in a chair, they play on the floor or something like that. And the men would always sit in the doorway going, "Yep, here it comes. Here it comes." And I wanted so bad to be one of those that's standing up there at the doorway going, "Yep, there it comes," but they would never let me do it. So I still want to be a storm chaser, but I've seen a few tornadoes. They're frightening, but this sounds really weird. I know God is so much bigger than that, but you feel they're so awe-inspiring. You go, "Wow, look at the power of that. That is so fascinating."
Yeah.
And I think I've never actually been in a tornado and been part of the destruction stuff. I think that would probably change my mind pretty bad. But it was what we used to do when I lived in Southwest Oklahoma. Was after a tornado would come through, Mom and Dad and us would all pile in the car, and we'd drive around and go see what kind of damage there was. But we have the barn that we built. Tom built it's a concrete bathroom. It's a bathroom, but it was a concrete room because we are on top of a hill, and if something come, it would come from the southwest, and we'd be able to see it. So our hidey hole is the bathroom. The ceiling and all the walls are poured concrete, and that's where we go when the weather gets bad.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you, because I mean, I would, if I was there, living in that, tornado alley or whatever. I mean, I would have to have some kind of a thing like that, man. I couldn't handle it, not having a place for, to have for refuge if, you had severe weather. So I was
Well,
going to ask you about that.
in Southwest Oklahoma, there are fewer trees there, and you can actually see the tornadoes coming. And I was talking to some people about that. They say, oh, well, when a tornado's coming, because they didn't have cellars or something like that, they just get in the car and they drive in a different direction. And when the tornado comes through, because they're over fast, they just come zipping right through. Then they get back in so they get in the car, drive away. When it's safe, they go home and see if they still got a home.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We haven't had anything out here on this property yet, but I'm wondering when it will,
Yeah, well, fingers crossed. It's, it's not, something that's going to impact you. It's something that I find very fascinating because, weather phenomenon like that of any sort, it's just like you say, it's awe inspiring. And I really like can binge watch that stuff. I've watched like a bunch of tornado videos where you're just like watching it and going, oh man, look at that, and I would love to see one actually in person, but I don't want to see it if it's like, obviously if it's going to be impacting other people, it'd be kind of cool just to see like something like ripping through like a open field or something, but like, I don't want to like see that going through somebody's like community, because that's just amazingly destructive.
Well, it's kind of interesting whenever just before a tornado is going to come, the air gets really, really still. Mm-hmm. And so you actually stop. It gets your attention, and you stop and you start listening and looking for the tornado. And then when I moved to Alaska, there's not that where I lived, there was not it stayed still all the time. And so I the first few months I lived up there, I was looking and seeing if there was a tornado. And it was kind of cool too, because then from our bathroom window, I could see northern lights. And I could stand there and look at the northern lights. And then when I moved to Texas, I kept looking for northern lights and there weren't any.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So are you planning on going to any festivals upcoming? You're going to be making your way out to SelfReliance anymore, or?
I don't know. I'd like to. The Nicole Sauce thing, that was probably a once in a lifetime thing. I mean, I didn't travel nearly as far as you did to go to SelfReliance Festival, but I would like to be able to go back. I'm not going to go to the one. Was it in April? I'm not going to go to that. No,
the next one is in March.
In March, okay, yeah.
Then they'll have another one, I guess, in October. I think.
Yeah, I might try to go for that one. I'm not sure yet, though.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was cool, and I want to go when I'm not talking.
Yeah, it was great. It was great to meet people there, and I think that's a big part of what's important, at least from my perspective, with regard to establishing relationships with people in real life. Because so much of what we do now is on the internet. And so to be able to communicate with people in that way, it just it's just so much better. So.
Yeah, I think I'd like to go back and to as much as I enjoyed SelfReliance Festival, because I had not done any public speaking in a few years, I was nervous. I was about to put a big old load of my life out there for people to see, and I wasn't sure how I was going to be received, and I was really nervous. So I'd like to go back where I could just enjoy myself and be with people and have a good time, and not have to worry about that.
Yeah, well, I saw your talk, and it was, like I say, it was inspiring when I saw it then, and like I say, yeah, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you back on tonight, was just to kind of talk about that and some of the other things that are going on your homestead, because again, I think your story is one that people would enjoy hearing. So,
well, I'm having the time of my life now. For the first time in my life, I'm really, really enjoying myself. It's hard work. I love the work. I love what I'm doing. I've loved learning every day, and I probably have never been this happy in my whole life.
Yeah, that's great to hear. As far as like what caused you to go into being a homesteader, was that partially due to your granddaughter, like you spoke of earlier, or was there some other reason, or did you go into it earlier than that?
Yeah. Let me think. When Tom inherited the land and stuff, I thought it was pretty cool. Now, but this was before Tom got sick. He had a laundromat. I was running his laundromat for him. He had his day job. He had rent houses and all kinds of other stuff. And when he got sick, it was kind of up to me to try to figure out how to. I don't know how to fix washing machines, and so I couldn't keep the laundromat running. I sure didn't know how to work on rent houses and stuff. And so everything was basically falling apart all around us. And my name wasn't on any of that stuff. My name was on that middle 13 and 3rd acres. And my name was on that. We bought a FEMA trailer from Katrina. When Katrina came through, they had all these FEMA trailers and stuff. They sold a bunch of them at an auction in a town nearby us. And so I think we bought it for $2,800. We bought a 30-foot camper. And so my name was on that too. So I thought, okay, I can focus on this. And I didn't want to work for anybody else. I thought, surely with 13 acres, I can figure out how to bring in some money. I can figure out how to provide a living for us on that. And that's why I decided I wanted to concentrate on that. In 2008, though, when we were planting the vineyard, my joints got real sick. I think that's the first time I got bit by a tick. And so I wouldn't have been able to work for anybody else anyway. I was pitiful. I was trying to put these grapevines in the ground, and waves of fatigue would hit me, and I would literally be crawling on the ground, planting a vineyard, and I'd lay down for a few minutes and then get back and crawl to the next one. And the fatigue was so bad. I was so glad to get over that mess.
Yeah. I know I know a few people who have dealing with like the aftermath of getting bit by a tick and getting Lyme's disease. I had a guy that I worked with who was pretty debilitating for the guy. He actually was retired as a result of it because it just like messed him up bad. So that's something that we don't really have a lot of around here, thankfully, because they freak me out. I just do not. That's one thing I really just do not like is ticks. I just don't dig that, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah. We have snakes that I have to deal with here sometimes too. I haven't had to deal with any venomous snakes so much, but we do get the black snakes. And I have a snake wrangler now, so I don't have to try to grab them by hand and get them out of my chicken coops. But I do have to deal with snakes every once in a while.
Right. Let me ask you this: if there was just one animal that you could have on your homestead, of maybe the ones that you raise currently, or maybe another animal of your choice, which animal would that be? What would just one homestead animal, what would it be?
My livestock guardian dogs don't count.
Whatever you want.
I love my dogs. I adore my dogs. I've got two great. One of them is I think she's only about 70 or 80 pounds, but my other one, I don't know. He looks like a Saint Bernard, but he's a Pyrenees Anatolian mixed shepherd. And I think he probably weighs 120, 130 pounds. And I don't know. I love my dogs.
Yeah. Dogs are one of those things that I don't even consider. Well, I guess maybe a livestock guardian dog would be something like that. But they're almost like, to me, they're a member of the family because they're just this very special animal. They're just so intelligent and they're so loyal and just, they just hold a different place in my heart as far as the relationship, animal to human relationship. Whereas, I look at other livestock as we have here, they have a function, and that function generally is revolving around food. Whether they produce the food or they're going to become the food, that's just how I look at them. So,
and well, my dogs, honestly, they get spoiled. I don't know if I can technically call them livestock guardian dogs because, like, in the heat of the day or all day long, they're in the house, and at night they do a good job at night. They'll take on the coyotes, but I don't know. They're pets that do a job at night, I guess is what they technically are. Yeah, I like my ducks. They're fun.
Yeah. 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 Those guardian dogs are, my neighbor raises them, and the ones they have bark all the time, and it just drives me crazy. But um, yeah, I think that there's a place for them for sure. I've considered possibly maybe getting another mouth to feed, and that's kind of the way I'm looking at it. Does it warrant having, more mouths to feed to save, four sheep? I guess it depends on the cost of the sheep and all of that. But yeah, they're a unique animal. How do you feed them? Do you feed them kibble,
Right
or do you?
now, yeah, I'd like to start doing rabbits and start switching them over because because I do just dog food, kibble dog food. They do it. My dogs do age faster than they need to.
Mhm.
And a lot of what I'm trying to focus on here too. Part of the reason I did the Idaho pasture pig is because they like grass. I've got lots of grass, and I want to do rabbits because I can do. Oh, bye bye. See you later.
See you,
But
Laura.
I do. I want to do rabbits because they can do the grass and stuff too. So I'm trying to get animals that if all else fails, I can feed them with what I have here. Like if I can't get dog food, I can feed my dogs rabbits. If I can't get rabbit food, I can feed them grass or straw or hay or whatever,
Yeah,
And it would be more work, like with the pigs, that I have to move them more often and stuff. But you know, that's what I'm trying to do is get animals that will do okay on grass, and I won't have to rely on feed as much.
yeah. I think that's very important. That's one of the things I've always been cognizant of in the years that we've been on this property, but it's been accelerated as of late with all of the different, you know, supply chain issues and whatever else is going on in the news, and it's just kind of makes you realize you need to be a little bit more self-reliant, because um, yeah, if you have animals, you have to feed them, and how you're going to feed them if you can't get. I mean, we've got a year supply right now of kibble for our dog. We just rotate the bags every month, and the oldest bag gets used or whatever. But we've bought like enough for a year supply for. But like, what happens when that runs out? So that's why it's kind of good to have the rabbits, or maybe feed them eggs, because they do so much better on raw diet. I believe it's healthier for them. But I don't know. That's something we've considered. We aren't currently doing that. All of our dog snacks are raw food, because we keep back the heart and the liver and stuff like that. We don't typically eat that ourselves, those organ meats
Yeah.
that we process. And then that winds up being the animal's dog treats, which is super good for their health. But I know John Willis is doing the rabbit thing with his big killer dogs that he's got on his property.
I didn't see them. I missed those.
Yeah, he's got an Anatolian that's like, thing stands like like big, and they're pretty scary looking dogs. But he had like, I think, I don't know, 3 or 4 of them, and yeah, he's got dogs, but that's how he feeds them, is he raises those rabbits, and then he just kills the rabbits and feeds them to the dogs. And the dogs are apparently trained well enough that they don't even really have to process them much, so they just just kill them and then feed them to them whole, and they process them that way through the animal. But yeah, something to consider, I guess.
Yeah, I'm the only one in the family that's a prepper though, so I have backup stock of everything, but if I get too much, I kind of get called out. It's like, we only need 1 extra bag of dog food. We only need one that, how many things of ketchup do you think you need? So
Right.
I have to toe that line a little bit too. That's part of the reason I have done more, because I knew I wouldn't be able to stock up on food and stock up on things too much. I needed to be able to still provide his food. And that's the reason I started growing the food more, so that I could keep the supply coming when when my stored food ran out.
Yeah, you bet. Well, we're getting kind of we got about an hour and 9 minutes in and discussed a lot of things tonight. So is there anything that maybe you want to add, or are there any places that folks can reach you? I will try to add your links if you send those to me.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, send me all your social media links and all of the things like that where people can find you. But is there anything else you kind of want to add in closing?
Yeah, I've got the Grandma's Homestead is my YouTube channel. I have another YouTube channel. I every once in a while stick a camera in, like with a brooder or something, and and I don't talk. I don't do anything. I just put the camera in there, and it's called Farm Animal Life. And I have started doing a podcast myself. It's called This Grandma's Life. Most of what I have is on a YouTube channel. I just recently learned how to do just the audio part. So you can find me on iTunes and Stitcher and all that other stuff now too. And I'm learning a lot, and I'm loving it. And yeah, I'll send you the links. I've got I do some TikTok and Instagram and all that other stuff. Not like you do. You put out some content, but I'll get there.
Yeah, it's hard, man, to stay consistent. There's, yeah, I'm still new to this thing too, and I'm just kind of working through it and learning as I go. And I think just like all the rest of us, just trying to muddle through. But yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you. And
even as frustrating as it is, it's fun though, isn't it?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It's definitely, I think it's rewarding because, for one, I like to be able to share ideas, and then two, I like meeting people, new people. Yeah, it's just a great medium to either get your message out there or to meet people and to share ideas. So I'm really enjoying what I've been able to do since we met, which was back in October, and I was inspired.
You've blown up. I'm so proud of you.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. That's nice. Well, thanks for coming on, Thecia. I think we can pretty much wrap it up there, but I want to thank everybody that was able to drop in this evening, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, you too. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it a lot. It was fun.
Absolutely. We'll see you.
Okay. Bye-bye. I'll send you the stuff.
Okay.